The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Planted with Sara Payan. I'm Sara Payan, your host, and we are on episode 21. And today, my guest is Marie Montmarquet. Welcome, Marie. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sara.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure. So a little bit about Marie. She is the co-founder of MD Numbers Incorporated, a family of vertically integrated cannabis brands, MD Farms, Marie's Deliverables, and Legacy Coterie that provides a range of goods and services to the California supply chain, retail customers, and equity community. Marie is a legacy cannabis operator who's been passionate about the plant for over 13 years. Her cannabis business expertise and equity activism have put her in the national spotlight. After graduating from the University of Tennessee with a BA in political science and psychology, she moved to California from Nashville in 2010. Over the last decade, Marie has created several successful cannabis businesses along with her brother, Alan Hackett, with whom she co-founded MD Numbers Incorporated and its subsidiaries. Marie and Alan are also minority owners of Cannabis Express, having helped build one of the Bay Area's biggest delivery providers. In addition to developing and scaling successful cannabis businesses, Marie is focused on being an advocate for social justice and equity in the industry. She's an advisor to the Cannabis Equity Program for Success Centers and offers monthly tours to MD Farms for equity applicants. Marie's goals, well, we'll talk about the goals because I have for 2020, and they're to expand MD's numbers and MD Farms capacity, develop new properties, and build more equity brands, advising, supporting, and championing equity in everywhere possible. Thank you so much for being here. And how did 2020 go, and what are you looking at for 2021 with those goals? Because I know it's been a crazy year for all of us, having to be a little bit nimble.
Totally. I think that what you said earlier, it's definitely the year of the pivot or understanding, what you do really, really well and where you need to grow more and learn more. And, I think 2020 for me was a whirlwind. So many things were going amazingly well, where prices were higher than they've ever been with bulk cannabis, and the farm hit some records producing more than we've ever produced. But at the same time, we were dealing with so many social injustices, of course, and different things on the equity front in San Francisco, where a lot of our equity applicants are struggling to get open or struggling to find good partners. So for me, it was definitely a catch-22. In some ways, it was the best year of my life, and in some ways, it was like a whirlwind of what do you say? I'm just like constantly putting out fires. I'm just like a firewoman everywhere, fire all the time. So it's been a whirlwind, but I definitely think that, like we were saying with 2021, 2020, the year of the pivot is super pivotal, no pun intended.
Right. I know. It's been a really, really interesting year just seeing, I think that times like this really, how would you say it? They separate the wheat from the chaff. Because the people who actually have real substance and are doing, there are some amazing companies that have been lost through the years that it's just really unfortunate the timing was off. But I think in times like this, like you really see who has it together and who doesn't. And I think that timing is everything. And there's no time for fluff in times like this either. Yeah.
Heard a couple of times. It's definitely the year of the hustlers. My friends that just hit the ground running and put their head down and didn't complain. Complaining was not their strategy, and they just found all sorts of new opportunities to make money and started all sorts of new businesses. I have a friend in Nashville who literally opened up 3 different restaurants during the pandemic, and
Whoa.
He's thriving. So, no matter what the industry is, just making sure that you keep your head down, stay focused, and you can definitely accomplish so much even in times like this.
Yeah. Well, it's like historically when we look at times and pandemics, some of the most creative work, some of the most just amazing work comes out of times like these when people are just pushed to their limits. That's not to say that it's easy.
Yeah, right. It's not necessity. It's like the coolest things come from the impossible.
Yeah. And like going back just a little further for not necessarily a gentler time, but definitely not a time in the midst of the pandemic, because going through, well, working in cannabis is always a challenge, and I'm looking forward to the day where it's treated like a regular industry, because we really need that. But even before that, even before you got into working in cannabis, what attracted you to cannabis?
I would say, like, growing up in Tennessee, originally it was never something that I wanted to get into. I was like really into sports and basketball, and I went to like a charter school or magnet school, so most of my friends didn't smoke. But as I went to college, of course, I tried it in high school, but then when I went to college, I started learning more about like the qualities of cannabis, and of course, California flower goes everywhere. And when I found some California flower, I was like, oh, this is really, really good. Medicinally, it was really good. I liked just the cultural aspects, my friends, just the conversations we would have and the people we would meet. Definitely a networking type of experience, right? So just the networking that was involved, how it felt, and I was like, I instantly knew that this was not as bad as they said it was, and I don't feel any sort of like compelled. I don't feel compelled to go commit crime or do anything crazy, which was like literally how I was raised, like in Dare and in Nashville, Tennessee. Just say no, and all drugs were the same to me growing up. Whether it was meth or weed, they don't tell you the difference. So I definitely had like a different opinion of cannabis until I was in college. Mm-hmm. And, I always thought, oh, I don't want to be a pothead. I don't want to like be one of those unproductive stoners. And like, I just was underneath the totally wrong stigma of, just where the government has convinced me that smoking weed is bad and smoking weed makes me unproductive and all of these things. And when I really went out and just learned for myself and experienced for myself, I thought there's a lot of things in life that I want to experience that, are taboo or have a bad stigma just because the regulatory framework in whatever city decided that was bad for whatever unjust reason, most likely. So it was really eye-opening just for a conscious, expression of like, how do you want to live in life? Do you want to be underneath the thumb, or do you want to like experience things that aren't harmful? And for me, like cannabis, if you look into the science at all and you look into, the lethal dose of alcohol versus the non-existent lethal dose of cannabis, and it's just obvious how unjust and unscientific the laws are, right? The laws don't match the science in any way. And I would say the majority of people that are in a state like Tennessee that just have to go by the government way are all underneath the wrong impression of the stigma of cannabis still. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely, I always wanted to move to California. When I was little, I used to get to come out here. I always wanted to move to California. And then when I got into cannabis, it was just like a no-brainer to make sure I get into a state that has legal use and can build some really cool compliant businesses and not have to be so concerned about, the stigma and the local legislation.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, we've been, although, cannabis is definitely popping in other states too, but we've been the epicenter for so long. And so I think like getting involved here is where you can really make an impression throughout the nation, because the coasts of the United States are just so influential in how everything runs in between. They like to call us the coastal elites, but I think we're just coastal trendsetters more than anything, And then, the whole critical thought thing. Like, if you see that cannabis is not bad for you, but we've had this stigma, it's like, what else is going on? Like, when my cousin is more like my niece, she's much younger than me, and she had an earache, and she had gone to Dare, and when they wanted to give her drugs for her earache, she was like, say no to drugs. And I was like, this has gone like way past where it should be.
Guys, we were talking about crack. Like, stop it. It's just, I watched this Netflix documentary on Saturday, and it was like about the crack epidemic, and it was just talking about, of course, Nancy Reagan and the Just Say No, and that entire, political approach to everything. And it was funny how I tell some people this sometimes, but I was in DARE in Nashville when I was probably in like third grade, and I remember getting the Spirit Award for DARE, meaning that I was the most excited person to just say no to drugs that was in the class. And I'm just like, look back on it, and I'm like, oh, the irony and the lies.
I hope you kept your T-shirt.
I know. Find my like little medal somewhere, put it up, hang it up in my office.
Right?
But yeah, it's crazy. I think the more you learn, like even from a cannabis side, like I've been heavy on cannabis, like, for the last 15 years or so, but over the last maybe year, I've been educating myself more on just like psilocybin and microdosing, and now I'm like an avid microdoser where, years ago, if you asked me that, I would say, hell no, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, I'm not trying to trip, and see colors and this and that. But then when you actually do more research and you understand like the wellness benefits in different ways of microdosing, where you're not even high, you don't even feel it, but you're definitely actively thinking in different ways and being more productive. So it's like, we have to be able to like explore these things. We can't just take the government's word, and we know they're not here to help 99% of the time.
Yeah, I mean that's a fact, and I think that just how we are as a society are starting to turn more towards natural means to create shift and relief in our bodies is really important. I mean, I think the thing that it goes hand in hand with is, the mindfulness portion of it, because I've had people, tell me, oh, I've had this really bad experience, on cannabis, and I'll ask them, well, what did you take? And how much did you take? And, what was going on before that? And there's because we are seeing, here it's more accepted in California, people forget that no matter what you put in your body, there has to be some mindfulness about it. And that's like even going with like psilocybin. It's like it's a wonderful. I've done microdosing myself, and I have to say that it's helped with my anxiety. It's wonderful for that. But people need to like actually
know
your stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
They were too used to.
Oh no, sorry, I
right?
interrupted you. What did you say?
No, you're fine. I was interrupting you. So like I was just say it's like the movies, where you see the first time somebody does shrooms and they're like going down some Alice in Wonderland, rabbit hole. And in reality, like that would be the equivalent of you eating 500 milligrams of cannabis and thinking that that's normal. When everybody has their own level that they need to titrate into their body. And you really have to just know yourself and be mindful. Like you're saying, there's always the balance.
Yeah. Yeah, there is always the balance. And that's for me as an educator, when I do trainings with healthcare professionals, they're always asking for exact dosages and exact ratios. And what I always tell them is, you come to my class, you read a good book on cannabis education, you check out research, you're getting back a report back about how the majority of human beings respond to the substance. And in research, it's even a smaller pool than that. And if you're not dealing with humans and you're dealing with rats, you're dealing with mostly male rats. So it's like, yeah, you can use those as a foundation, but then the important thing is figuring out how it works for you, because we're walking chemistry experiments.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So
totally. I've experienced like that all the time with CBD, where I would have a mom and daughter that both wanted to sleep, but one would take a 1-to-1 ratio and the other one would take a 20-to-1 ratio to get the same effect. So I'm like, if you have a family literally with half the same genetics that still have, various responses to this, then okay, how can we really say that one thing will ever work for everyone?
Right. And then also just the things that we experience through our lives, because even though, I mean, it's a long time ago, so there aren't as many people alive who've experienced it, but polio survivors, for some reason, don't metabolize cannabinoids well.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I've had a couple of people who have come to see me, and the first time I was really frustrated because, I can help somebody find something that works well for them. And then I was talking to a friend of mine who's a physician who's been working with cannabis patients for years, and he told me, he's like, well, that's not unusual. We've actually found that, polio survivors don't respond well to cannabis. And it makes you wonder because, polio affects the nervous system and how the ECS is so closely intertwined with it. Like, what's happening there? That's the fascinating stuff. Like when you get these issues where somebody's not responding, and it's like, well, what's different about their bodies from other people's?
Right. That is crazy.
Yeah, I find
That is definitely.
you just want to lean in. You're like, so what happened? What's going on? I want to learn. But
Absolutely.
when,
Absolutely. That's so cool though. I'm really into that and like the MS, like all the autoimmune reactions too.
yeah,
Those are super interesting for me.
it is super interesting, especially because with autoimmune, it's really hard to get relief, and a lot of the pharmaceuticals have their own gnarly side effects.
Oh God, yeah.
You know,
When you watch the commercial, I mean, like, I don't know if gaslight is the right term, but I think that the media does a great job of, making you feel crazy.
oh
And in those
yeah,
moments is such a good example. Like, these drugs must be better than these all-natural drugs. But then you watch the commercial and it's got 67 different side effects that they read off, including suicide and diarrhea. And you're like, okay, you don't know if you're going to want to kill yourself or shit on yourself, but somehow this is going to this is going to help your allergies. It's like something extremely minor. Like, oh, okay, great. Now you might die this way, that way, or the other way on these drugs. But it's crazy to think about we're just kind of so sheepish in all of these ways. Where it's just like if the government just put a stamp on it, then that must mean that it's acceptable.
Oh, see, I thought it was the sunset and the happy music that went along with the side effects that made it better.
Literally, like the happy faces.
Exactly.
Happy.
I always watch this, and I'm like, I didn't know somebody could get that. What is that?
Literally.
So
literally.
let's talk about MD numbers. How did you start it, and what did you start with?
MD numbers. So that is the culmination of like 5 years of different types of businesses that we've built, and started with the delivery, Marie's Delivery, and Marie's Deliverables in 2015. And we just started there because back then and even now, like, delivery is still one of the easiest areas to get started in cannabis versus like manufacturing or distribution or cultivation. And that's kind of like where everybody, your local weed man was just delivering weed to you, and everybody's kind of used to that type of business. Or my brother and I were very used to that type of business because that's kind of where we come from. And so delivery was just the lowest hanging fruit that made the most sense at the time. And we started that in 2015, and then shortly after we opened up a Los Angeles location. And when we did that, we were just doing a lot of market research and realizing that in order for us to compete long term, we were going to need to get some sort of cultivation to scale. So in 2015, 2016, we were doing delivery. The end of 2016 and the beginning of 2017 is when we got our cultivation space locked down and we started cultivating. So MD Farms was our next venture, and that includes a 50,000 square foot mixed light greenhouse in Salinas. And down there we have a nursery, and we have um, distribution, processing, and cultivation permits.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so that is like our aha moment, we kind of call it, where we always knew we needed to cultivate just at some point to get that controlled production somewhere. You know, we couldn't always be at the mercy of the market, so to speak. But yeah, we went to LA and we realized that there was like a $35 cap on a lot of the stores down there and deliveries down there, so nothing was more than $35, and we were used to $50, $60 eighths
Hmm.
weed in Northern California because people up here used to just like understanding the different cuts and creating cuts, and like when something new comes along, people are definitely willing to pay for it. And so we went down to LA and we were like, oh man, we are going to have to cultivate to grow this business the way that we want it and kind of actually make money in the future the way that we see the shift changing. So it's kind of like the pivot game. Like we've been in triple threat stance for the last 5 years. So it's like, I'm ready to dribble. I'm ready to shoot. I'm ready to pass. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I've got to stay, just bracing myself for whatever changes that we have to make. So when we went into cultivation, it was back in pre-Prop 64.
Okay.
So we had local authorization from the county of Monterey, and we got grandfathered in over time. But currently, like, you have to come in and be able to pull all these permits immediately, and have your building up to code immediately. So I mean, it's a huge difference when it comes to like having everything in compliance on day one versus like the city working with all of the growers that were there and helping us get compliant like over time. So we were able to phase things in piece by piece, which is how we were able to survive over this time because we're just a small business and we've never gotten any outside investment, just family and friends and our own investment. So going through that phased approach really allowed us to like stay in the market and be able to exist when Prop 64 rolled around.
Yeah.
So if we were going to recreate like all of our businesses in Prop 64, it would have cost us, 100 times more, maybe even more than that, than creating everything in Prop 215. So it's kind of like you said earlier, like, you got to know when to pivot, but it's really about timing as well. So for us, we got in 2015 in the right time, and we're able to like figure out a lot of these things in the nick of time. Like literally, maybe if we would have started a month or two later on the grow, then things wouldn't have gone as well. But definitely just being able to pivot and continue to pivot. So those were our first two, was the delivery and then the cultivation. And then we have just been getting involved, of course, with bulk sales and distribution, which has led down different roads and learning more about distribution. So I am working on delivery and distribution in San Francisco right now. And in that, it's basically like the full vertical. So, we want to be able to like process the flower, have a nursery, clone. We sell clones, all the way through, sell the bulk flower, sell the trim, take that trim, get it processed by somebody. They'll sell it back to us for bulk extracts. And then we'll take our bulk flower and package it up. We're not currently packaging it up into like a brand right now. We're still selling everything bulk. But the goal is to, in 2021, we're going to put together a budget to be able to package our own brand, create a couple brands that we want to sell through the delivery service. So it'll kind of just be a full circle of vertical integration.
That's awesome. It's been so hard for companies to survive, especially because there isn't a lot of access to banking, and to be able to tap into familial generational financial backing is huge. because
Oh,
there's
it's everything.
oh yeah, because otherwise it's like if you let somebody from the outside come in, you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's been one of the things that's kind of troubled me with like the way equity has gone, because
Oh, yeah.
it's like I feel like a lot of people have been taken advantage in that, like, oh, you're an equity applicant, I'd like to work with you, but you don't get to have a say in how the
Exactly.
business is run. What are you
It's
seeing?
really, really. What do you say?
I was just saying, I think I was probably leading into what you were going to say anyway. I was going to say, what are you
Oh,
seeing?
yeah. Totally. The same thing. I mean, I think that there's so many equity applicants that are basically set up for failure because of their need to partner with someone so highly capitalized, right?
Right.
So, of course, naturally, that opens up the door for the sharks and all the predatory interests to come in and thrive, especially on the standpoint of like that person being potentially not, as high of a business acumen, which even for me, like, I didn't have the big business acumen 5 years ago that I have now, and it would have been easy for me to take a bad deal a lot easier back then. And so, a lot of us, like people like me, are dealing with these deals for the first time. So it's very, very, you have a very high chance of just being taken advantage of. And then not only that, but just like the business structure, like innately, there's not a lot of businesses that would ever allow an operator to have majority ownership with only split equity. So, I mean, we basically engineered like a structural conundrum ready for corruption, right? Like most businesses aren't going to say, okay, sure, you don't have any money. Okay, no problem. We're still going to let you have 51% and majority control of this business. Like that's just an anomaly that you really don't find in normal business.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we create it for equity? Not sure, but that's what we did. And then back to the funding piece where, we're saying, great, we want you to open up, partner with these guys, but you don't have any say in the business in reality because you're not putting up any of the money. And it definitely is like what you say. It's like just an area that thrives for the opportunity for predatory investors and people to be taken advantage of. And that's really all it's turned into, especially like in Northern California, is really large capitalized groups that seek out equity, and most of them they intentionally are seeking out different types of equity that they know that are okay with being kind of out of sight, out of mind type of let's just say like members of the business,
Mm-hmm.
versus someone that's like, oh no, I want to be the CEO. Because another issue is like, who in the world decided that everyone wants to be a CEO? That's very awkward of say, okay, if you want to own a business, like you have to be the CEO of this business. So you can't be the COO, you can't be the CFO, you can't be, the chief operating officer. You have to be the CEO. So it also didn't create, like, we didn't create any other paths. Like, we literally just said, oh, if you want to be equity and you want to have a business, then here's just one path for you. So there's definitely been, in my opinion, a lot of things that could have been better, but it all starts with funding. And even like my brother and I, us being able to get, like, back then we had to raise a little less than $400,000 to start our farm. I mean, now if we wanted to replicate what we have, we'd probably have to raise like over 10 million, and it would have never happened. But even just having someone to go and get, 250,000 from is a miracle at sometimes, right? And not only that, but the people that gave my brother and I money, they gave us money because they saw us being successful already in the delivery space. And if we weren't successful in the delivery space, they wouldn't have had faith for us to then be successful in the cultivation space. So for equity applicants, it's like they don't have that. None of this is their own money. Normally, it's not their own money. There's two sole proprietors that I know of in San Francisco that basically did everything themselves and figured it all out themselves. And that's one guy who's yet to open. His name is Perry. And then this super amazing chick named Reese Benton who's open. She's got
Reese
a
is
storefront called
amazing.
Toss Green. Yeah, so Reese is like, one of my favorite success stories to just talk about because she did it all herself, and how hard that is to do. And Reese is really smart. She got a lot of deals. She made good deals, made good decisions, and then she's able to autonomously be successful. Terry had some investment, so he was able to do, he wanted to autonomously own this business without taking corporate investment from predatory lending. But reality is, if we didn't fund it, then we never intended for it to be successful, or we would have funded it. If we're like, hey, we need to pave the roads, but then we never actually take the budget and earmark any money to transportation to pave the roads, then we never really wanted the roads paved, right? We were just like, hey, we want to create something to symbolically mean this, but in reality, like, we're not going to actually put all of our regulatory rules and framework and money behind it. We're just going to make, we'll make an oversight committee and then we'll do this and that. But it's just typical politics as usual, right? Where if something is going to be successfully implemented, then it has to be funded. And we watched, nearly every city in America not fund their equity program. And, at first you're like, oh my gosh, yay, they have an equity program. Like, I'm stoked. So many cities don't have an equity program. And in my mind, it's like, there should not be any cannabis sold if there's no equity program, because that's literally just taking the entire industry and giving it to corporate America as fast as we can, with people still sitting in jail for cannabis. And it's just, not the structure that I would prefer. But I think, like, at the end of the day, the funding is, the key. And that's the piece that we still are missing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think part of, too, is we have people in positions of authority that are making uneducated decisions because, like,
absolutely.
I was one of the co-chairs of the San Francisco Legalization Task Force, and I am on the San Francisco Oversight Committee, and it's amazing to, like,
hilarious.
It's the stuff that happens.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you said
I was
Oversight
talk more shit, but I didn't. I was like, but not even talking shit about you guys. Like,
no, it's
like,
cool.
How do you make an oversight committee with no power?
Right.
Like, it's all, like, false, fake. I think the last, I watched the last meeting in October where Nina's sitting there begging for the budget to have one more meeting to even follow up on all the things that the oversight committee was supposed to accomplish. But the budget literally was like, I don't know. Okay, fine. Nina, we'll give you one more meeting, but we really don't have the money. And I'm like watching this, like, how do we actually protect any of these, regulatory, like all the regulatory frameworks that we've written? How can we protect it if we really don't even have a budget to protect it?
Right. Well, and it really shows, like, how much of a priority it is. And that was even,
exactly.
Yeah, when that committee was proposed, it was very political how it actually originally got shot down because people were like, oh, we're fine, legalizations happen. And I was like, listen, we have so much more work to do. And not only that, but we were really lucky at the time that, the head of the Office of Cannabis was an ally. And that's not always going to be the case.
Right.
It could be that somebody's against it. And we have, like, the fact that there wasn't enough funding to go through the end of the year was really poor, but we have a lot of disconnects. I mean, there was a meeting, it was like last spring, where the controller's office did a report on the price per gram of cannabis in San Francisco, and they said that the price went up per gram since legalization and that it was due to competition. And that's when I started, I just I had to butt in. I was like, "There's never I can't believe that you're saying this. The controller's report is saying this because we've never had prices go up on anything due to competition. It has to do with the fact that we have all these crazy hoops that we have to go through. The price of
Right.
real estate
Which
is
has
high.
created the least amount of competition,
Oh my God, and the access.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And I got quoted because of that. Like,
That's so funny. I'm like, well, how would this, when they were relating like year prior to this year, like, no, like there's literally less competition.
yeah, there is
How
less
would the price be
competition.
up?
We're in a field that should be actually cultivating critical thought. No critical thought is being used.
Yes, literally.
And
I could not agree more.
that's the sad thing. Like even prior to 64 passing and legalization happening, we had been talking about the fact that when people are working in the illicit market and they were found out that what we should be doing instead of taking people's crops and prosecuting is we should be giving them paperwork as to how to successfully get into
Yep,
the legitimate market. Because these are
totally,
entrepreneurs. I mean, plain and
totally.
simple, just entrepreneurs that cannot survive in this market, and we're not making it a friendly place to be. It's not creating more jobs. And when we're looking at equity, there were so many times where I was hearing people talk more about equity in hiring a diverse workforce rather than creating
Right,
business owners.
right, right, right. And even with that, like, I'm super close to Miss Ange. I do tons of work with Success Center, and I'm just kind of like a
They're awesome.
silent advisor pro bono for anyone and everyone that has a question or wants me to look at a contract or yada, yada, yada. And, like, that's exactly what I see over there. It's just, like, we are kind of, like, here suspended in this place, and we expect, these, like, someone to know something. It's like, my dad used to always say, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And we've got, all these people that are passing different regulatory frameworks, whether it's in San Francisco or statewide, and they don't understand how cannabis actually moves through the supply chain or what it actually takes to open up a business or what struggles, the equity community is seeing. And it's just very blatant. And, like, I think that's, like, kind of what I want to see, like, well, how do we change these things, right? Like, where we see all these ways that a lot of this is wrong, but where do we go and how can we start to make it right? And I think that is definitely, like, one of the biggest struggles that I kind of see, especially in San Francisco, because I kind of look at things like my first delivery deal is when I first learned about, K1 partnership flow through tax liabilities. And so one of the first things, like, I ask or want to see is, is your business an LLC or is your business a corporation? And so, let's say that you're doing a deal with Shrine Group and you're opening up a Stizzy store, and that, I'm just hypothetically speaking right now, not to say that this is the way it is.
Right, right.
But let's say you're an LLC instead of a corporation. That means that you are responsible for your pro rata shares. And as an equity, like, the cohort of equity, like, we're talking about a lot of things as, like, pre-permitting process. How do you get permitted? How do you get through the permitting process? How do you find people that are good partners? How do you make money? But then once all those things happen, like, there's going to be more catastrophes than we could ever plan for in the future. We're like, oh, yay, we're going to open up equity. But then we're not looking at, the tax liabilities, the tax implications. Like, on my delivery service, I pay more in taxes than I make as an owner, just because I don't actively work on that business. So I'm not paid. I just owe my ownership share at the end of the year. So every year I pay to own that business. And there's tons of futuristic, tax implications that will be coming down the line for everyone. And, like, if you can't get along before that happens, imagine what's going to happen when people are suing everybody and going to court and dealing with all of these extreme cases. But no one's really talking about it right now. It's like, just get open.
Yeah.
Just get open, get your business. And then and I will say this, like even cases specifically like with Shrine Group actually, where Cindy De La Vega, like Miss Ann, just close with her and Success Center, and like she was, she's the CEO of that business, yet they were like requiring her to do a lot of things that were like something you would require of an employee, like, well, you need to clock in and out, and you need to make sure you're taking your breaks at this time, and you need to, they're like, wait a minute, like, I'm the CEO here. Why am I like clocking in and clocking out? Like, why this and that? And I could go on with these stories, but the fact of the matter is just like making sure that like equity is actually educated and make sure that they know exactly what their, what control they have in the business and how it needs to be set up, and then set it up in that manner, and then make sure that you're actually getting paid.
Yeah.
During these times, because like I'm good friends with Kareem, and like we helped him recently finally get paid, and I'm just like, how long have you been going through all the pre-permitting stuff? Over a year. Has Shrine Group given you a dime? No. And it's just like, I don't like what's going on here.
No, I don't like it either.
So bad, like just so dirty. And even for him, when he goes back and he's able to negotiate a salary, it's like, are these really the type of people you want to be working with? Like, this is the type of stuff that you have to do, is look over your shoulder on every little thing to make sure that you're getting your fair share. Because if they can definitely not give it to you, then they're not going to give it to you. And I think that's the thing to even see, like, is like, we've gotten some equity storefronts open, but like, who are they under? Like, what's the Shrine Group care about? Like, do they care about Cindy? Do they care about Kareem? I don't know, but they care about selling more Stizzy. That's what we know.
Yeah,
and the list goes on and on.
I mean, in many ways, it seems like, and this is something that I was afraid of when we were first discussing equity, because one of the big things that they were talking about was when we were saying, how do we target the population that we want to help benefit, and it's like you couldn't talk about race. It's like we can't talk about the fact that the most persecuted people in this whole thing have been Black folks. We're not going to have that conversation.
Right.
And we're not going to say, we're going to...
It feels a little dirty.
It does. It's like, because they do that loophole of people who have been living in areas impacted by the war on drugs. That's what we're going to say. Okay. So,
I think that I was like watching the Compton equity, like one of the city council meetings for Compton, and like literally, like they're just like people in there going crazy. Like, how in the city of Compton are every single storefront application in Armenian? How are there no like such a small application for Black people?
Yeah, what is that all about? I mean, that's crazy.
It's unreal, right? It's like, we can't do this for, like an unaffirmative action or something. It's just like, no, the point is affirmative action, actually. The point is, like, you arrest 89% of Black and brown bodies more than, anyone else. And those people should benefit from what they've been going to jail for all this time. It's very black and white. It's not very difficult.
No, it's not. And I just felt like the way that these have been set up has really, like, and you talk about like sowing seeds for the future, it's actually just sown the seeds for predatory behaviors.
Yeah.
And
totally.
That's got to stop.
It does. Like, what do we do, Sarah? That's the question.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's so crazy too, because like, do you know, or have you heard of High Purpose, Damien?
I haven't.
Damien's his name. It's a super cool dude. He's like 100% community activist, like has nonprofit called Us for Us, where he like feeds elderly, he feeds the youth, he like educates the youth. He does all sorts of stuff basically in like Bayview and Fillmore to like keep kids out of doing whatever bad stuff. And he rolled it into cannabis a little bit, where like started something new rather, where it's called High Purpose, where he has an equity brand because he's equity. And it's called the Give Back Buds, where basically he takes the majority of the profits and just puts it back into the community. And he will have the second storefront in The Haight, where he partnered with Harborside. And it's kind of like one of those super catch-22s a little bit, even for him, as he hits me up and he's like, Marie, like, what do you think? Like, is this bad? Like, is being partnered with Harborside bad? And I'm like, I don't know, but Last Prisoner Project is bad. I can tell you that. But I don't know about how you feel about the Harborside connections. But it's just the irony of, like, how can people like that succeed autonomously, right? Like, whether Harborside is good or bad for him is neither here nor there. It's just the fact of, like, how can, even someone who's got so much good stuff going on for them be supported autonomously without having to partner with someone that's predatory.
Yeah. When I think about it, I can, and, I don't know of every single business, but off the top of my head, I can count on one hand the amount of Black-owned businesses that I know in cannabis.
Totally.
And that's
I
really weird.
Literally, it's okay to be criminalized for it, but for whatever reason, they don't see, you worth being someone that can run a business. Just very, 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 I don't know, racist behavior.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that I think of too is even when we're doing, there are resources available, like, I love Success Centers. They've worked with my company has worked with them, and it's like there needs to be education and support. But beyond that too, it's like before I worked in cannabis, I worked in nonprofit, and I worked in civil rights, but I also worked in how to create a generational wealth for families, because we learn our money habits from what we grow up with. And so, we might be successful, we might make money, but whether we keep it and grow it for our future generations is another thing altogether. And like in times like what you and your brother went through, the fact that you had family to be able to work with on, raising funds so that you didn't have to deal with a lot of this nonsense is a very important thing. So, when we get people set up for success in their businesses, I think another really important thing is about, financial health and well-being, and how do we, create resources for people to have good relationships with money so that they can create the generational wealth for their families to continue on. Because we all have, research has shown, it's like, each one of us, as we go through our lives, whether it's when we're younger or whenever, something will come up, and it only takes one good emergency to throw us flat on our ass. But the thing that saves people is, having family that's able to step in and help, or having that generational wealth to help bolster us so that we can get past it. So how do we not only, I think one of the things that we really need to look at, and people always look at me like I'm nuts, but it's like, in addition to giving people the opportunity to start businesses and the tools to be successful in it, we need to look at the aftercare, like what's your relationship with money, and how can we help you create something sustainable so that your family and the generations that come beyond you can benefit from all your hard work.
Definitely. I think that is multifaceted.
It is.
Right? Because I think it goes back to, and I like, for me, it always goes back to this. It's just like, where's the money coming from, right? Like, me and my brother, not only were we able to get some funding, but we were able to get it from supporters. Right. Like, if like, we didn't pay my investors back on time. Like, I don't even know. Like, there's very few investors in our early career from cultivating back when we literally did not know how to grow weed at all and were failing miserably harvest after harvest to then, have to pay you back and then, oh no, you're going to sue me because I missed the payment. And, that wasn't the position that we were in. So we had these supporters, right? So, like, even deeper maybe than, like, the fact that there is all this outside investment coming in for these types of people, but, like, where does the outside investment come from? And does that group actually care even about, like, that locality? Like, if, there's a company, I mean, you could go anywhere. If there's a company out of LA that's coming into San Francisco, there's a company out of Florida that's coming into San Francisco, there's a company out of Tel Aviv that's coming into San Francisco, if there's investors that are Russian, there's investors that are Chinese, there's investors that are all these international type of investors, like, at the end of the day, Sarah, they don't care about us.
Yeah.
They don't care about, the Reeses of the world succeeding. They don't even care about, like, the San Francisco localized community. These are not people that have come with good intentions, even when it comes to the local economy. And unfortunately, because of, like, America's capitalistic ways and, like, just bending over for the corporation, it's like Amazon in a way, right? Like, we're okay with certain things happening and making sure that, okay, if Amazon comes to town, we're like, yay, jobs, but they don't actually flip into the second chapter where it says all these jobs are minimum wage. Right. And all of our management is going to come from Seattle. And all of our da-da-da-da-da is going to come from Seattle. And actually, we're not even going to pay taxes. So not only are you not going to make any tax revenue off of this situation, but we're going to employ people at very, very, very minimum wage jobs, and we're going to act like we did something good. Yeah. And be rewarded for it. So it's like multifaceted, right? We're like, we want localized healing, essentially. We want local communities to be able to, like, have generational wealth and create generational businesses for and from cannabis. But where is the money coming from is the first question, right? Like, where is it coming from? Is it and secondly, like, if it's not a supporter, what does this person really care about? Oh, they just care about making money. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what happens if they're not making money? Who's going to get screwed first? Oh, the equity person, of course. Like, well, what protections does this person have? Zero. Okay, now we're just down, like, the rabbit hole of just utter corruption that, this country is unfortunately thriving off of currently. But that's like, for me, it's like, I think about cannabis, but I don't really just think about cannabis. It's like, if it was that easy, then why don't these things currently exist in the current structures? Right. Where you can go and get loans, where you can go and get real estate, where you can walk into a bank and say, hey, I am a plumber. Why are there no black plumbers? I used to run a plumbing warehouse, which makes me why it's even funnier joke than it was. But, like, literally, there's no black plumbers. Right. Like, I would sit there, I'd be like, I meet one black plumber, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this was in Redwood City, like, down towards Palo Alto. But I'm like, why, if it was that easy, Sarah, we wouldn't be sitting here having these phone calls. Like, we wouldn't, like, I always, like, sometimes I'm on different panels with people that are, like, extremely radical. And I'm like, I don't have to think radically. I just have to look out the window. Right. And I see, like, 3 homeless people, and I can think about, like, man, one's probably a veteran because we don't take care of our veterans. One's probably a minority, and the other one's probably mentally ill because we don't care about any of those people. And why is that? And what needs to change for that to happen? Especially in a place like San Francisco where it's like the utter haves, and then the utter have not. Right. And you just see it, like, I think, it's magnified here as, other places. So for me, it's like, okay, we'll go back to, just if it was that easy, why does it not exist right now?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's not because we have years of oppressive policy to wade through. And they're looking at they're looking at cannabis as a panacea to save the government with spending and like things in big picture, but what they're not realizing is that, you know, we are only as strong as our most vulnerable member of society. And,
Right.
you know, we have people who don't necessarily, you know, wouldn't be vulnerable if they actually got a chance to do the stuff that they would excel at. I mean, when you were mentioning like the plumbing, I used to work in the trades. I used to work in the elevator industry, and everybody was white, except for a couple people that worked in the office and one person in the field.
That's cool.
And it's like, you look at that and you're like, okay.
I mean, hell, I didn't even realize until, I didn't realize, like, I mean, this is probably still kind of opinionative, but I think it's a fact at this point. But, like, I didn't even realize that unions were created because of all of the black and, like, brown war vets that came back and were taking white people's jobs. I'm like, oh, that's why they created unions? Like, that's why you can't fire someone that is, like, the worst worker in the world because they're white. Ah, crazy.
See,
it's like when you, like, drill in, like, historically.
And no one wants to look at that because that makes people feel bad.
You know, it does. It makes me feel bad.
It makes everybody feel bad, and then it makes people feel guilty who have like given into it. It's like, I always say, you know, if we bonded more on the socioeconomic inequalities that we have, the whole racial element is just it's insane. It's like we all want the same thing. We all want to be safe. We all want to be able to pay our bills. We all want to be healthy and heard and loved. And it's like, you know, there's no one. There's when you really look at it, where some people have so much, it's like it honestly wouldn't take anything away from them to be able to give a little more so that everybody could be in a good place. And I know I'm being pie in the sky. Like, I get it.
No, I like it. I agree. I agree completely.
But we should be able to look at cannabis as like, cannabis is one of those opportunities as a new industry to be able to create that culture and to have like, you know, people being able to have abundance but still have compassion and accessibility and the whole, you know, critical thought portion of it. I mean, we're critical thought is discouraged because it's what raises people up.
Mm-hmm. Way more critical thought.
Yeah.
I think there's so many pieces to it too. Like there's like where we know we want to be. And where we know we even were with Prop 215, because during Prop 215, like I was on, a guy said this recently, and we were self-regulated better than we are regulated by the state and by the local counties. And I don't even say that in some like pie in the sky way, but like even lab testing. There's more dirty cannabis now that we've allowed like corporate America to run into this industry than there ever was before. And the old dispensaries like Berkeley Patients Group,
I love BPG.
Back in 2015, they required lab testing. I remember trying to go by there and sell them. Right before I started the delivery, I was like working with this herbal supplements company, which I just thought it was the coolest thing. But we had like CBD pills, and we had sleep pills with CBN in there, and this was back in 2015. And I was going around, BPG and all these places, and I like looked in my notebook the other day just for like giggles, and I saw like go back to BPG with lab tests. You know, that was 2015. Like the best places were self-regulating themselves better than the state currently regulates us, and it allowed for a lot of these, you know, just unsavory corporate companies to come in and try to like, I don't know, grow subpar cannabis and do all these things, right? And then another issue that I see that's like just a big issue is like how we criminalized the behavior, of course, but then when we decided that this behavior was not criminal anymore, we didn't create any path from one to the other.
Right.
You know, like we were like, okay, if you were selling weed illegally, then good luck getting a permit to sell it legally. Instead of like actually valuing like the insight and the business knowledge that person has, which is actually priceless, especially compared to like, you know, a Monsanto or someone coming in. But like I kind of think about it like hackers, like NSA and the national security. They look for these hackers that can penetrate these firewalls because they know things that no one else knows, and they have such unique experiences, right? And they're valued. But for some reason, when we created this entire catastrophe in some ways, like my first delivery is a good example. It was based in Redwood City. Redwood City decided they did not want to offer local use authorization. They said, hey, you got to go to the state. So my first delivery, if we wouldn't have like reached out to this group in San Francisco to move the delivery and stay compliant and lose a bunch of money in our soul a little bit, then, you know, Redwood City wasn't going to help us be compliant. And not only that, but like no one was helping us be compliant. Like I spent my entire 2017 wondering how in the hell we were going to operate legally in 2018.
Yeah.
That's like all I did was like, oh shit, I missed the deadline like in Oakland. And like, I didn't know anything about anything at this time. You know, I just had my one business, had my seller's permit, had my license, like doing my deliveries, like not really understanding where I need to go and find property and who I need to talk to and like how I can get a delivery permit. I was just like, I need to partner with someone because I don't have all of my money was going to the farm. We were just like, the farms broke, the deliveries, supply, you know, putting all the money to the farm, and like all we wanted to do is stay legal, and there was literally no avenue for us.
That's the biggest fucking disconnect in this industry.
Huge.
It is. And it's one of those things where it's only common sense, and so all I can think is that, you know, it's greed and it's who the politicians are letting bend their ears. Because even with 64, when we weren't supposed to be allowing large farms, which was something that put my mind a little bit at ease with all this, and then that went out the window. It's
the cap went out the window so fast.
Oh, it did. It went out the window so fast. And it's this whole thing about it's our national sickness under a microscope in an industry. I mean,
yes.
And that's what we got to work on. And
we're the micro of the macro.
We are. And that's one of the
And we were watching it like rapid.
Yeah.
Like rapid. Like all of these things have happened so rapidly.
I feel like if we could, one of the things that I've noticed in the past few years is when people get really, and I'm talking more about consumers, get really upset about the prices, availability, how long it took after legalization was passed that we were able to allow adult use cannabis. And I found myself giving people what I used to call stoner civics 101. And I was like, we don't understand how powerful we are as a people to be able to make change when people's jobs are on the line because our votes count.
Right.
And I think that there needs to be more mobilization of people because
way more civic
engagement. And that's, that was why I got on task forces, because I was thinking, you know what, this stuff is going to be crazy. People are going to get involved that will just have their own needs, you know, that they want to have filled, and we need to have richer conversations about this. But when, you know, we have to change the way our government works, and it's not just with cannabis.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And
the whole thing needs to be just collapsed and rebuilt from the people. I mean, I went to school for political science, right?
Uh-huh.
And all I ever wanted to do is sell weed. And I'm now engaged more with politics than I ever wanted to be. Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I took an internship at the Tennessee State Capitol when I was in college, and I realized, I do not want to be involved with, like, you know, bottom, like, the civics, especially in Tennessee. I mean, like, basically, like, there was House representatives. Like, I was a clerk for the House, and there were just House representatives, of course, their entire jobs was to keep any progress from being made. And it would just be, days of filibusters. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this is really local government? Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever get done. Like, this is ridiculous. And then getting into cannabis, fast forward, and I'm like, wow, this is so political. Like, I'm not even sure how my life even turned into this. But now it's just, we really have to just build it break it down and rebuild it from scratch, which sounds like, the scariest thing to every politician in the world. But I mean, at the end of the day, we just have, politics is supposed to be a public servant to the people.
Right.
And at this point, we have gotten so far away from that, it's completely mind-boggling. I think it's like once again, if it was that easy, it would be done. One of the studies that I did while I was working at the Capitol was just something as simple as, like, out here we can get 5 cents for recycling our bottle.
Yeah.
Well, in the South, that is unheard of, and it will never exist because Coca-Cola doesn't want it to exist, because Coca-Cola and the aluminum guy are best friends, and they want to mine more aluminum until they die. And long story short, even something like the Keep America Beautiful campaign is actually owned by Coca-Cola. And I was like, you're just researching this, getting my mind blown. And I'm like, then we did a survey for everyone in the state of Tennessee. Like, Republicans wanted to be able to recycle bottles. Democrats wanted to be able to recycle bottles. I mean, like 89%, 91%, and we still could not pass the bill. And to this day, I did that internship in 2008 now. So, 12 years later, we still don't have a bottle bill. And it's just like, how do we elect these people who don't actually vote in the ways in which we ask them to vote, yet we keep them in office year after year?
Right. Well, and then it has, we have the things that they're considering corporations as people. We need to have like an equity lobby.
Yes. People call me from all over the United States, like on a regular basis, and they're like, Marie, I'm in Mississippi. Like, what do I do to get an equity program here? Marie, I'm in da-da-da. What do we have to do to get an equity program here? And I'm like, you have to lobby.
Yeah.
Like, someone has to go and make them do it. They're not going to just create an equity program. Like, I have so little faith right now, especially in, like, the MORE Act and the way that they added those amendments at the end that basically end equity programs. And, like, in my mind, I'm like, we need to be lobbying to make it mandatory that any and every city that comes online has to have equity permits.
Yeah.
Period. Like, it should be a federal enforcement. And then I'm like, oh, this is such a joke. They're about to do the literal opposite. Like, they're literally like, wait a minute. Oh, you've been convicted for weed? Oh, you can't run a weed business. How does that even, that can't be a reality.
No, it's the perpetuation of institutionalized racism.
I think a city, I couldn't agree more. In a city that, just opened up their applications that I'm super interested in, because I used to live in Redwood City. Mm-hmm. But I think Redwood City is, a good example of, we literally have one of the counties in the largest consumer state for cannabis, one of the most key counties, going from dry to wet. There's been no dispensaries allowed in San Mateo County since, I think, 2010 was when they shut down the last one. And, delivery data shows you how active San Mateo County is for cannabis. It's one of the largest consumers in cannabis there is. And they're only going to open up 6 storefronts, and they hired a third party called HDL to do the application scrubbing and who they're going to admit. And I'm just sitting here screaming in my head, this entire city is about to go and no one is going to say anything about equity. I think in their application they had one sentence about it of any sort, and it just kills me. I'm no one's talking about it, no one cares about it, but in reality, it's the biggest bubble that's about to pop in California.
Right. And they were some of the biggest NIMBYs on it too, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm the public education officer for the Apothecarium. So for years I was behind
I
the
know
bar there.
nothing. Actually, like, I do so many of these with Zoe that I'm terrible and I need to, like, research more. But the minute you said that, like, usually I'm talking to someone in, like, New Orleans or something, right?
Uh-huh.
And the minute you said this, I was like, oh, shit, like, this is my stick. Like, this is local. Like, you're in San Francisco, I'm in San Francisco. Like, oh, no, I was like, oh, you're on the oversight committee. Like, oh, gosh, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Literally at the mouth of the horse, like, of the water of the stream coming down, and, like, there's no water to drink. What's going on here, guys? Like,
We have so much to talk about.
like, literally, like, I was like, I'm like, man, this could be my entire, like, week. Like, I'm like, Sarah, what do we do?
I know.
What do we do?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like for all of the work that people have been doing to get rid of like oversight committees and stuff, they're really needed, but they need to have power. They need to have power to actually be able to make change. And like when I would get so many people behind, like even though I'm an officer of the company, it's like I had been behind that bar for 8 years. And I'd have people, coming in from the peninsula being like, I'm tired of coming all the way down here to get stuff. When are you coming over there? I'm like, when you get politically active and you start demanding from, that it happen, because it's up to you. It's not up to me. It's not up to the owners of the company I work for. It's up to you.
Totally.
And that's, I think,
especially like the NIMBY stuff too.
Yeah.
You're like, when I was in Redwood City, I was like at one point running my delivery out of my house, and I was looking for an office, but no one would give me an office, and I mean like no one. And I had like my attorney write a letter saying that I am like a trustworthy individual and rent me an office, and I brought in receipts of like Square credit card transactions for 30 times the price of the office in a month, and they wouldn't give me an office. And so I was like in my house dealing with all this stuff. My HOA was certain we were like selling cocaine out of it or something. Like, I don't know what they thought. They called the undercover police on me. Like, one of my good friends came over to get like 3 Cushy Punch one day, and literally like this unmarked van pulls down the street and like 6 undercover police hop out on him. Why? Because he's black, and he was the only black person that walked in my house that day. And they hopped out. They did this whole thing. He's like, my medical card's here. All I have is Cushy Punch. They're like, we don't care about the Cushy Punch. We are certain you've got like something in your car, whatever it is. And then like finally I ended up moving to like a storage unit type office and got out of the situation. But like literally, even a city like Redwood City, where like literally was a business owner there for years and fought with not being able to have any protections, even though I'm paying taxes. And like now the city comes online, and I'm like, man, I don't even know if I'll be able to open up down there.
Right. And that's
and like thing. I'm not equity in like a sense of the term, like but I've been arrested for cannabis once. My brother's been arrested for cannabis. Like we are definitely people that have fought the war on drugs in all these capacities, but it's like we will lose every time to the Cookies and the Calivas and, those guys that are opening up there.
See, and as a legacy business, you should have first dibs.
And I had a business registration permit for cannabis in Redwood City in 2017.
Yeah, that's the major disconnect. Legacy businesses, people who have been working, in the pre-legalization market, they should all have a leg up. It's so much. We have so much work to do.
I think that like there's this pie that we have in the sky, right? Where we're like, on one side we have legacy operators and like how do we get legacy operators in? And then in that pie we have a division of like profitability, of course, where like if I'm trying to convince one of my friends that sells hella weed in the black market to come to the white market, and I run the numbers for them, they're not sexy, compared to what they have because we're overtaxed, of course. And then you've got the other pie in the sky of equity, where we have, people that have clearly been affected by the war on drugs and disenfranchised and like are in communities where we clearly have banking issues and we clearly have real estate issues. And how can, my thought was like, I went through this one like thing and I was like, all right, if I was going to create like a task force, like federally, how could I force like people who own real estate to rent to quote unquote equity? And I'm like talking to one of my good friends that's an attorney in Tennessee, and she's like, you can't. And I'm like, you're right, I can't. So what can we do? And she's like, the only thing you can do is if there was like tax incentives, right?
Yep.
Like there should be tax incentives for different types of real estate to rent to equity. But, how can that be created? And where does that come from? And how does something like that even, what does that look like? And then I started looking more into like the 1970s Banking Reinvestment Act, where they said, obviously we're not loaning money to minority communities, so we are going to make it mandatory that every banking institution in that area has to give back, I think, 10% to that community. And I'm like, then I did this huge project where we dove into all the CBA, like the community benefit agreement that dispensaries have written. And I didn't do it in the Bay Area. I did it in LA because my good friend down there is in charge of all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I literally called like 40 storefronts in LA. And majority of them, no one even answered the phone, even though by law, the community liaison has to answer the phone or call back, and they don't. Then the people that did answer the phone, I'm like, can I see a copy of, well, A, do you have a community benefit agreement? And B, if you have one, can I get a copy? And like people would just hang up on me. People would say, who are you? And I'm like, I'm just a concerned citizen. Like I did live in LA at the time. I'm just like, I'm a citizen in LA, and I just want to find out this information. And they're like, click. So
Yeah.
Then I just look at it. I'm like, okay, so we had them promise the world to all these cities or promise certain things to these cities, and then no one is even holding them accountable to A, making sure that information is visible and available, except San Francisco with our equity program, which is somewhat available and visible. But these community benefit agreements that every storefront wrote are not available, and no one is making sure that anybody is being accountable for those things, for hiring locally, for workforce development. Like, I think Miss Ange and I were talking one day, and I think like ease was our current topic, and the 10 first equity hires of any of the ease establishments were all gone. So it's like, you're promising you're going to hire these people, you're going to train these people, and you're going to give them work, not development like a minimum wage job, but you're actually going to grow them into a management position or, continue to have some sort of upward mobility in your company. But when you look at the data, you see that they're all fired.
Right.
Or they quit.
Right.
Because of whatever reason.
Well, and it says a lot about the culture either way.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
And the turnover in this industry right now is just sensational.
It is, and that's a sad thing, especially like on the dispensary front. It's because there are I don't understand like how people can spend 8+ hours of their life in a position where they're not feeling like they're getting growth and they're not feeling challenged, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of the cultures of these companies. And that's something that really needs to change, because we need to be looking at these as viable careers rather than making money off of the backs of people who are eager to get involved in cannabis. But
Oakland is cool.
Oh, I love it.
Getting a little cooler over there than over here.
Well, I did.
It's a little apocalyptic over here right now.
I know. I did 23 years in the city, and then it's like I came over here, and I love it here because it kind of reminds me of the San Francisco I fell in love with in many ways, but even a richer experience. But I was just telling my husband, I was like, man, in San Francisco, you could blindfold me and drop me anywhere, and I know how to get home. Here I'm learning.
I live on Norfolk Street.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know where that is.
Like right behind Holy Cow.
Yeah.
Right behind Butter, and like on the other side Slim's. they just developed this huge apartment in this alley, and it's like changing the face of this alley tremendously.
Back in the day, like around 2000, 2001, that alley used to have some great parties.
I believe it.
There used to be some.
I believe it. I moved out here in 2010, so I feel like I missed like the main heyday, and then I got like a little bit of the post. Like I moved out here when, of course, we were like a bit end of the recession, or like the recession was kind of ending, but not really. So it was like a little different.
Oh
But
yeah, I got to the city when things were starting to heat up with tech, but I came because I was an artist, and so we're all just like a bunch of poor hippies having
so
parties, dancing to music, living together, and then you just kind of everything it changes, and if you want to stay, you've got to like change and hang on as hard as you can.
yeah,
But
it's going to change again tremendously too with all of the. I feel like commercial office zoning is going to be the emptiest
oh
space
yeah,
alive.
I kind of wonder how
Oh
many
my
people
gosh,
will end up living in it.
literally, there'll be some cool spaces to live. Yesterday I just got or last week I got the call from one of my friends, and her job was literally to clean out this company called 500 Startups, and they had like the whole sixth floor on Mission Street right by Target, and they are like a VC firm that basically takes private companies public, but they're behind like Oracle a little bit, and Square, and all these like super name brand companies, Zendesk, and literally we're just like cleaning out like 500 desks. They're just like, take whatever you want. Like,
Wow.
I was just mind blown. And then she's like, yeah, we're doing Twitter's office next because everybody's going to work from home at Twitter. I'm just like, there's going to be no reason to have all this tech office space.
Nope, there isn't. And I remember after the .com bust in 2001, because I was working as an operations manager then, and I was looking at, a new space for our office. I worked in tech consulting, and going into these offices, cool. Oh my God. Well, it was like it looked like people had just walked away from their desks.
Literally. It reminds me of like watching Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Like how it would be. Like, I'm like, oh, the lip gloss is still in the drawer.
Yeah.
Like, everything's literally left.
Their
like,
shoes are still under the desk.
Like, literally. Like, yeah. Literally. And like all the coats are still on the coat rack. Like, the kitchen is still filled. Like, crazy.
It's, especially with San Francisco, it's such a boom town. It's like I always say, she's fickle. She's just as soon to welcome you in as she's to kick your butt out.
That is the truth.
So it'll be...
You love it and hate it.
I know. It'll be super interesting to see, like, how it changes, because, I mean, this has been going on since the gold rush there. It's like that vortex of energy. But like looking into the future, what are you expecting? What are you hoping? What are your plans?
Right. So many layers to that. I, in my wildest dreams, I'm looking for real estate still in Redwood City to hopefully apply for retail and delivery. So that would be like my ultimate dream, to get back to Redwood City and get delivery and retail going. Kind of like I'm going to start with what I think is going to happen as far as the farming and cultivation, due to the fires this year, and of course still due to like the limited amount of permits and not enough cultivation. I think prices are going to be worse this year than higher this year than they were last year. And like we had our flood come in already, like, the October, November, December, and it's pretty much ending right now. So we're starting to see prices go up again, which is like go up faster and probably be steeper than last year, which is interesting. Makes me happy for the farm wallet, of course, but it's just very like, hey, how much higher can prices go and actually bear all the burden of the regulatory taxes? Right. So what does that look like? You know, will there be a decrease in consumer interaction with storefronts? And then just watching storefronts close in San Francisco recently, and like that effect that I've seen. I think Blackbird distribution went out of business last Thursday, and like, so still watching, you know, some of these corporate, and Blackbird might not be extremely corporate, but that's a public company, and they were involved with Baker Technology and some other groups. So like watching my 2020 happiness, my little bit of happiness, which is watching a lot of these over corporatized companies fail that thought just because they knew how to build an Uber, some form of some platform, they could come into cannabis and just win. And so I appreciate that, and I definitely predict to see, you know, more of these conglomerates not be able to hold on, consolidation to continue to take place. Goals and hopes, I think both together. Like my goal is like to just be as involved as possible on like different relationships that I have that have a lot of potential in San Francisco, like different equity applicants that I'm close with. Like Damian Posey, for example, watching him be able to open up his storefront and get his brand out, and he's in over 10 stores now. I don't know if Bobcarium has it yet, but it might.
I don't think so.
It's called Higher Purpose.
Higher Purpose.
He's got pre-rolls. Yeah. I think I always get it confused. High Purpose. High Purpose. Just High Purpose.
High Purpose? I'll have to check him out. I'll have to check him out, and I'll have to, if my buyer hasn't been turned on to him yet, I'll have to do that.
Yeah, he's just super. I mean, I've never seen anyone like, we call him Action Jackson. Like I've never seen anyone like more in the communities than this man. Like every single day, he's like out mentoring the youth. He's feeding people. He's taking people somewhere. Like it's just unbelievable to watch like what he does on a daily basis, and then watch him build his brand, and then get the partnership with Harborside. So I definitely just want to watch more of the people that I mentor, like be able to open up their businesses. And I've got another guy, he's super cool, Alex, who I actually need to call back today, but he was going through like final lease negotiations last week with someone, so I'm hoping he's going to be able to open up a storefront and just really be able to like see tangible work be done. Makes me happy, especially with how, you know, like we said, we're in such a microcosm of what really is an expression of, you know, the United States business as a whole. And, you know, so I just like to be able to be as impactful as possible. And I'm working with another super cool chick, Jessica Strange is her name, and we are supporting Success Center on a technical assistance grant that we received.
Nice.
So from now until August, we'll be doing 14 workshops and like 65 hours individually of one-on-one mentoring. And I'm also doing another like mentoring apprenticeship almost program for the delivery, where if people want to come in and learn about delivery, they can shadow the delivery for a day and learn just different workflows and see opening and closing and all that different good stuff. So that's definitely like my 2021 in a nutshell. Just being able to use the different pieces of success that my brother and I have obtained to like impact more people. So we have like on our farm, MD Farms, we do a tour, monthly tour for Success Centers. And back before COVID, everyone was going to Oaksterdam on a scholarship, and then they would come to our farm as like one of the follow-up educational experiences. So seeing some people that have come through our farm actually engage in their own farms now and are going through their own permitting processing, and like just seeing that makes me happy, and using the farm as like a live educational experience for, you know, people that are impacted by the war on drugs like me, to see like what my brother and I created, and then that they of course have the same opportunity to create it too, even though, you know, we've talked about all the different struggles of then versus now. Yep. And so yeah, like I just definitely, like, my brother is a crazy entrepreneurial man of sorts, and he's down there engaging in more cultivation opportunities for us. So we're in the process of building out 500 lights of indoor in the same area down there in Monterey County.
Nice.
And we've got a couple other indoors that we might do. And our landlord is also putting together another 50,000 square feet on our same mixed light farm. So we'll be able to go from 1 acre to 2 acre in mixed light, which is really the key, like getting to scale in that mixed light as much as possible. Super crucial for like the future of our business and our companies and being able to control production. So that's definitely a goal and a fixation point of my brother and I, to make sure that we just reinvest. And a lot of it is all centered around cultivation and trying eventually to own real estate in these certain areas. So that's what we're going to continue to strive for. And yeah, I don't know if that answers it all, but that's hopes, dreams, the current, what I kind of see happening 2021. On the equity front, I just want to be as impactful as possible. I don't know, what exactly like regulatory framework will change, and I'm definitely willing to be a part of that process as well, but just making sure that, I can mentor as many people as possible and continue to like grow our little businesses here.
That's awesome. You put so much time into all of the aspects of it, and that's we need more people like you on the ground running, not only doing your work but helping other people do the work too. If some of our listeners want to follow you or reach out, how would they get you online and social media?
Yeah, for sure. Our Instagram, www.mdnumbers.com is our website, and they can reach out on there, as well as our Instagram, which is mdfarmsca, mdfarms.ca for California, and check us out in those places. No problem. It's so funny, like we've had such a conversation. I'm like, I forgot people are going to listen. It was good.
I know. I love it. I love having conversations with people like you where it just flows and we just like dig into it. That's the best.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's coffee talk combos.
It totally is. Oh, I know. I was totally drinking my coffee while we were talking.
Me too.
And for our listeners out there who want to follow Planted, it's www.plantedwithsara.com. On IG, Twitter, and Facebook, it's Planted with Sara. And if you want to just check and see the nerdy things I'm up to on Instagram, it's Sara Meet Your Pion on Instagram. So, Marie Montmarquet, thank you so much for being on the show, and I really would love to have you back anytime because we have a lot more to dig into, and especially in the new year, hopefully we'll have some exciting changes for the better, especially on the equity front. Here's to hoping.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. That's one thing we can do, right? We'll definitely have on the up and up and the positive vibes and do something cool, and we should get together for another one.
Oh, yeah. And for those of you out there, just so you know, Planted is twice a month, and also a part of justice and equity is getting involved as a member of the public. So remember, your vote counts. Get active. Learn more about civics in your area. Run for office. Join oversight committees. Do whatever you can to make a difference in the world, because it is up to us in the end. So from me to you, have a wonderful day. And until next time, be good to each other. It's a crazy world out there, and get active. Take care.